continuing our reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is from the introduction. Vedic knowledge is not a question of research. Our research work is imperfect because we are researching things with imperfect senses. So we have to accept that our senses are not perfect. You know, are our eyes perfect? Can we see perfectly? I don't know if you all have the experience. We see something and we are so sure that it is. But after some time we realize, oh no, it's something else. I was so sure of it was this, but it is something else. Even hearing, our ears are not perfect. We have imperfect senses. So we have to accept perfect knowledge which comes down, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, by the parampara, disciplic succession. So because our senses are imperfect, whatever research work we do is going to be imperfect. Whatever mind, imagination, speculation, I will do it with my own intelligence. It's all going to be imperfect. That's why we see there are so many theories put forward. And then after many years, then that theory is changed, you know, in scientific discoveries or something. They keep changing because why? It's all by imperfect. No, we human beings are all imperfect. But imagine if the truth was being said like that. How can it be true then? If it changes, then it's not true. The absolute truth should be unchangeable. It is unchangeable. So we have to accept perfect knowledge which comes down, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, by the parampara, disciplic succession. We have to receive knowledge from the proper source in disciplic succession, beginning with the Supreme Spiritual Master, the Lord Himself, and handed down to a succession of spiritual masters. So that is the way to receive the Vedic knowledge, transcendental knowledge, knowledge of the true self, knowledge of self-realization. We hear it from parampara because it started from Krishna himself, and Krishna does not make any mistakes. He's God, he's Auparoshyeya. He does not have imperfect senses. He does not become illusioned. Arjuna, the student who took lessons from Lord Sri Krishna, accepts everything that he says without contradicting him. One is not allowed to accept one portion of Bhagavad Gita and not another. No, we must accept Bhagavad Gita without interpretation, without deletion, and without our own whimsical participation in the matter. So we might say, oh, I like this part of Bhagavad Gita, so I will accept it, but I do not like the other part, so I will not accept it. It's like half-hen logic. Prabhupada always would give the example. Half-hen logic. I don't like the mouth of the hen because I have to feed the mouth, so I will cut it. But I like the back portion because I get the eggs, so I'll keep the back portion. But if you're going to cut the mouth and throw it away, do you have a hen? No, we don't. So Bhagavad Gita, we cannot say I will accept some shlokas because it's to my benefit, but I will disregard the others because it's not to my benefit. But then that is not understanding the Bhagavad Gita. So we should accept it without interpretation. We should not put our mental thoughts. If Krishna is saying something, we should accept what Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying, surrender unto me. Krishna is not saying surrender unto something inside me. Krishna is not saying surrender unto my supreme consciousness. No, he's saying surrender unto me. He's a person. He's saying surrender unto me. So we just follow. And without deletion and without our own whimsical participation. Shouldn't make up things. Maybe Krishna thought this, maybe he thought that. No. Gita should be taken as the most perfect presentation of Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is received from transcendental sources. And the first words were spoken by the Lord himself. The words spoken by the Lord are called Apaurushaya, meaning that they are different from words spoken by a person of the mundane world who is infected with 4 defects. A mundaner is sure to commit mistakes. So who is a mundaner? It's ordinary conditioned people like us. We are sure to commit mistakes. Is invariably illusioned. We are in illusion. We are thinking we are the body. We are thinking we are controller, enjoyer, proprietor. Has a tendency to cheat others. We are always cheating others and cheating ourselves. We are so misguided and is limited by imperfect senses. With these four imperfections, one cannot deliver perfect information of all-pervading knowledge. So Vedic knowledge has to be heard from the authorities. Vedic knowledge is not imparted by such defective living entities. It was imparted unto the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, and Brahma, in his turn, disseminated this knowledge to his sons and disciples as he originally received it from the Lord. So that is the way. Brahma heard it from the Lord, and then Brahmaji spoke this knowledge to his disciples. He spoke it to Narad Muni. Narad Muni spoke to Vyasadev, like that. The Lord is Purnam, all perfect, and there is no possibility of his becoming subjected to the laws of material nature. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that the Lord is the only proprietor of everything in the universe, and that he is the original creator, the creator of Brahma. So who does everything belong to? Who does the earth, the water, the planets, the mountains, the seas, the sun, moon? Who does it belong to? Who is the proprietor? We always say, this house belongs to me, or this body belongs to me, or whatever. This phone belongs to me. But actually, who does everything belong to? And that is God. Why? Because he's created them. He's even created Brahma. In the 11th chapter, the Lord is addressed as Prapitamaha, because Brahma is addressed as Pitamaha, the grandfather, and he's the creator of the grandfather. So no one should claim to be the proprietor of anything. One should accept only things set aside for him by the Lord as his quota for his maintenance. And that is how a devotee sees. So what does it mean? There are many people who say, I renounce the world. I want to detach myself. I don't want anything. But what did we have first? That is monkey renunciation. Srila Rupa Goswami says, monkey renunciation. Monkey will say, I'm renounced. I will not have sex anymore. And then the next minute he's there with all his wives. That's monkey renunciation. We should be like the devotees. What are the devotees? Yukta Vairagya, the true renunciation. What is that? That I don't need to artificially give up anything. But whatever I get, I engage it in the service of Krishna. I connect it to Krishna. That's what a devotee does. And so we should try to follow in the footsteps of the devotees. Yeah. So we'll stop here for today. Any comments or questions?
Yeah. So
Yes.
This is how important the introduction is. Like every time when we read Bhagavad Gita, we just used to jump to the 1.1. And this is so detailed, and I mean, most of the things are explained here. So it's easy when you read the actual verses.
Yes.
You understand things.
Yes. That's why always Bhagavad Gita should be started from the introduction. Prabhupada has given the full essence of Bhagavad Gita in this introduction. Yes. And thank you for appreciating it. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining in today.